Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Headspace Podcast. This episode 78. It's your boy HSR.
And we're switching it up. It's not Chris Chrome. It's your lady friend, Bonnie.
Chris Chrome had a wedding to go to, so he bailed out on this exciting episode. But before we get into it, just a little context as to how things work over here. We are not the most astute hip-hop heads. We are folk learning, listening to these albums. This show focuses just on the new ones to keep up with what's happening.
But I think it's also, let me just say this, that it's all art, and we're just giving our interpretation of said art.
That's true. So what we do is we go through these albums track by track, give grades, give opinions, and just kind of have a little conversation about what we thought. And I think it's a little relevant to start with our favorite comment from last week, which was on A$AP Rocky's Testing album. And it was from Gurhan A. Review Pusha T, Daytona immediately, brand new.
Well, surprise, surprise.
Now, I wanted to do that, but we don't really do a lot of EPs here because like they're short and I don't know, we just like the full album thing. And as much as they're calling what we're gonna talk about today to be like full albums, like I don't know, they're just short. So this
I don't think it takes away from it being a full album.
No, I think there's a little bit away from it, but we can talk about that in a bit. But just so because of that, we went with the A$AP Rocky, knowing you guys can see what's coming. But before we jump into that, we wanted to just give a shout out to our patrons, Linda Williams and Mozart. These folk are awesome. And if you want to join our request raffle, which is where you get to kind of throw in some albums, whatever you want, and once a month we pick exclusively from those requests, you can join that tier. Right now it's a one-on-one between Linda Williams and Mozart. They're going to give us a request, and we're going to go live this week, pick between one of them, and then do that review. And it's going to be like that each month. So basically, in the meantime, while there's nobody there, it's a good time for you to join up while you have a good chance of getting your album picked and ready to go. Our current request list is like 300 albums. So to get through that, it's going to take a minute. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You also get access to our videos before they go live. And you get, we have some stuff in mind that we're going to evolve as time goes on. But if you have any suggestions for what you think would be a cool reward scheme, let us know in the comments. We do care about that. We did just finish our grind to 1,000 subscribers contest where we had three winners. They got Amazon gift cards and they got the right to request reviews. So Mozart was our first winner, and he requested The Last Emperor's The Legend of Bigfoot, and then we did that review. Boom. So then we have Fluent Truant, who has requested MF Doom's Born Like This, which we're going to record tomorrow because that's what happened. And then finally, Gio wants Common B, and we're going to do that the week after. And then once all that's said and done, we're going to announce a new contest where if you subscribe to the channel, you like the video, and you leave a comment related to the review or something to have a conversation, well, you get entered into a draw for Amazon gift cards and reviews. So we'll get back to you with like more specifics later on. I think that's enough of that. So why don't we introduce what we're going to be talking about today. Bonnie, if you want to introduce the albums.
You want me to introduce both? Well, we are doing Pusha T, Daytona, and Kanye West, yeah.
So, that's why we didn't do it last week. Good music.
They weren't out yet.
Well, I was looking at it like this in my head, right? Good Music is clearly doing this strategy right now where they're releasing albums each week. They're all 7 songs, so it's part of a series or whatnot. So instead of just making smaller videos for this one time, we figured we'd do other albums in between, and then we'll give you the Kanye and Pusha T. Then next week, Kanye and Kid Cudi's albums are going to drop. I don't know if I said that wrong, sorry. And then the week after, Nas's album's going to drop.
Whoop,
From
whoop.
what I can tell, both of those are also 7 tracks, so we're going to put those together. And in 2 weeks, just do another little combo. So then it's kind of like we're talking about one full-length proper album. Now, I say it like that because as I understand it, based on the old school record length, under 35 minutes is an EP. And I might be wrong. But I always figured like 8, 9 songs at least to be a full album. For me, it just feels 21 minutes for Daytona, 23 minutes for Ye. They just seem a little short to be like albums, you know?
It's like, I mean, this is some like whatever rule that was made that if it's like, less than this much, it's an EP, whatever. But like, I think that, if they're able to like concisely get out like their message and like what they're trying to talk about, and like they just want to like kind of cover like one topic, but they say this is enough like for like a full album, we are calling it a full album, then let them call it a full album.
Yeah, I'm gonna still call it EPs. That's make me like still it's proper, but it's just like a track or two shy of being like an album. Like my EP has 8 songs on it, and it's longer than this. And I'm not trying to pump my own shit. It's just in my head. It's just the rules how I perceive it. Maybe you guys disagree. You can let us know in the comments what you think. But why don't we start off with Pusha T because it came out first.
Yeah, let's do that.
Do you know who Pusha T is before this?
No.
So this is your first experience with Pusha T?
Yes.
All right. I knew what Eclipse was back in the day. Eclipse is Pusha T and Malice, and they're like twin brothers, and they were like rapping about the...
They're not twins, actually. I think I looked it up. They're just brothers. I think the other guy's his older brother.
My bad. I thought they were twins. So they're brothers, and see, Bonnie's great. She's wonderful. Yeah, they sold a bunch of narcotics and established very hard rhymes about these themes. And I remember watching a bunch of stuff on Vlad TV and other such sources, just reading up on how like Malice quit and became No Malice, and he's actually a Christian rapper now. I actually heard the last No Malice project that came out last year, and I like listened to that. I was just really curious. And then Pusha T seemed to be having like the year of 2017 features, but prior to that, I know him from like that Mercy song from Kanye West, and like I know like Grinding by Clips. That's like the whole extent of like his older work. I know who he is, but I never really knew him. And then man, he was on the Linkin Park album, and he was on so many different albums.
Like maybe like I've unknowingly I've come across him, or like I've listened to something with him on it, but like I mean obviously I've never like seeked him out.
Like I think he was.
I didn't know what he looked like. I had to look it up, and I mean I watched like the interview, the one that I feel like it was like the first one that came out.
I think it was Breakfast Club, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think so. Like the guy in the record room, whatever it is. Anyways, yeah, I watched that like whole interview, and I thought that was pretty interesting and like eye-opening, and seemed pretty relevant.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just kind of know that last year he was on a lot of albums we reviewed. He just kept featuring, and there were these really like insightful, deep verses. Like there wasn't a time we saw Pusha T last year where Pusha T did like poorly. Anyway, I think we can move on and just discuss this little album cover situation with the title Daytona.
Yeah.
I believe I wrote down what Daytona was from Pusha T's perspective. But what did you think it was before I say that?
Well, I mean, I guess like initially you think of Daytona, Florida. I mean, I was thinking of that. Like,
Is that where Daytona is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's where like the big like motorcycle like race or whatever it is, or like thing is that happens every year. So that's what I was thinking of, Daytona Beach, I guess. But he is talking about the name of a watch, and it's all about like the luxury of time, and like that he's a rapper and he can just take his time doing his art, and like there's no rush, like there's no like set time between albums and how long it takes and everything's just sort of like in motion, and that's it.
Yeah, to quote him, I changed the album title from King Push to Daytona because I felt it didn't represent the overall message of the body of work. Daytona represents the fact that I have luxury of time, and that luxury only comes when you have the skill set that you're confident in. So I kind of get the feeling that like he hyped up his album for a while, and then it got delayed or whatever. And now this is just kind of like the gimmick a little bit to like play up on the fact that it's totally okay because I know that whatever I drop's going to be so fire that I can do what the fuck I want. And that's the
and whenever he wants. So I think that's what's pretty important too.
Yeah, and so now is the time when Kanye West told him to. And I'm not trying to take shots. That's just how I understood the situation. As an example, he did not have the power to stop Kanye from putting this Whitney picture. To be fair, I'd never seen this picture before at all in my entire life.
I maybe that's why. Like maybe it's because it was a scandalous picture and it wasn't meant for to be seen by the public.
Which is fair, and I completely look. I think it's kind of like shifty what Kanye did here. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know the story already, he bought the picture of basically Whitney Houston's
bathroom
that was covered with drug paraphernalia and drugs.
Gross. It's full of garbage.
Yeah, it's not a nice looking picture, and it doesn't obviously shine like a nice light on her, and she's dead, so I'm sure she doesn't appreciate that.
Bobby Brown basically threatened to beat up Kanye West over this.
But Kanye West bought the picture from, I believe it was Bobby Brown's sister.
But
or half sister or something.
I believe
like that?
She's the one who originally took the picture and sold it to the tabloids in the first place.
Oh, see, I don't know about that, but I know that's where he bought it from.
Weirdly enough, I was watched the first episode of Bobby Brown's reality TV show because I got on this weird Whitney and Bobby I was curious thing when I learned about this cover because honestly, I just knew nothing about the situation, so for me it was a bit eye-opening, but more like I know it's disrespectful what Kanye did, but having heard the album and looking at this picture, I kind of get where Kanye is coming from.
It seems like appropriate in the most inappropriate way.
But as a white person who's never encountered a bathroom that may look like that in my entire life,
he could make it look like that. But this is the real thing. I think he's also trying to show that. I
mean, when we get into the contents of the album, I mean, it's disrespectful to the legacy of Whitney Houston, but I kind of get where Kanye's coming from in terms of that is one fitting fucking cover for the subject matter.
Unfortunately, yes.
And I do not know what the last album cover was, but I know that Pusha T and Kanye had agreed on album cover X. This was what going to be. And then Kanye spent it out of pocket because he changed his mind last minute. Pusha, it didn't matter what he wanted, and then Kanye just did this, and this was what it was.
I'm the boss, you're going to do this. And he was basically kind of okay.
And yeah, so that's what it is. And I guess if you want to get into it, if you know, you know.
If drug dealers ringing off, I just happen to be alumni.
Bonnie, how on earth did you feel about this song?
It was, relatively enjoyable. I like this one, actually. So basically, he's talking about the drug game and how he was involved in the business and how all that shit went down for real. He's kind of saying this is what it was. And if you know, and the stories are legit. He's not lying. He's giving you solid examples of things that happened and whatever. And maybe he's also talking about the people who he sold the drugs to because they know that he sold them drugs. And so I think there's also that. Maybe, they just know about the drug trafficking and, maybe a little bit more into his business. So you can, and I find you can absolutely hear Kanye West's influence on this song. Really, it just sounds so much like him. He's hanging out in places that are very visible and showing off who he's hanging out with and who he's near, and he's kind of flossing, right? He's sitting with near Riri, and that's cool. He's got to be up there if he's up there. And then he's also saying that he's kind of a one-stop shop because he's Walmart. He's easy and convenient. You can get your drug supply from him or whatever. And I really like the beat and the sound to this flow. I liked it, and it had a little bit of a reggae feel, which I enjoyed. So I gave this one a 4.25.
That's cool. I think the most interesting tidbit I learned in my process of just the Pusha T side of things. So it should just be said that for all the good music reviews we're doing, Kanye made all the beats, and that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
And Pusha T actually didn't record over this beat that we're hearing today. So for the whole album, he had skeleton beats, the drums, maybe some minimal bass or whatever, just something to give Pusha T a chance to write to. So he wrote out whatever, gave it to Kanye, and then we got this. So Pusha T probably had the same reaction everyone else to hearing this for the first time, right? Because that music is just not what you would expect with those lyrics, right? It's a little bit mind blowing a little bit. Like, so it starts off kind of dry, almost like harsh, and he rhymes boy with boy and boy a lot. And like the first time I heard it, I was
but
like,
it works. I liked it.
I did too. But like the first time, I don't know. I felt it was kind of like the first minute you didn't know what was coming. You didn't know about how the song morphs or whatever, and just was like so grimy and harsh, right? Which is what it's supposed to be, as he's kind of coming in and like pushing his point, right? But then when the beat flips in that like almost elevated, almost like angelic feel to it that comes in while he doesn't change, he still comes in with the same griminess. There's almost like this literal manifestation of Pusha T's status in life, going from like the grimy of the grimy to like the president of good music, fucking making whatever, and it's just there. Meanwhile, he's just dropping his lines. Now, what I like about him is he's one of those guys that has that old-timey, doesn't really have to change it up flow, because what he's saying and the intensity that he says it at is just so powerful, you know? Like, check it, like, or whatever. Imagine me, do boy, you could never do what I do, boy, still ducking shit that I did, boy, in Paris for I hit, boy. There's some pun there that I don't remember the meaning of, but it's deeper line than what it like stands for. But this ain't the same type of hits, boy. Shit that can get litter than lit, boy. You don't take these types of risks, boy. And like, I mean, Pusha T made a bunch of annotations on Genius if you want to get some deeper understanding of his mindset. But what I took from that was super interesting is off the jump, he's saying, look, like, this isn't like your Kanye West, Jay-Z type collab thing over here. This isn't like that. Like, whatever. Like, this is the other type of stuff. Like, this is where we had to come in and do a certain lifestyle that maybe you're not accustomed to. And I feel like right away, it's layered in a way where he's communicating, I'm going to do my, like, put out this vibe and stuff, and I'm still making this for the same people I was making this music for, like, at the start, this, like, drug dealing music, right?
Yeah.
For that crowd of people who are on that hustle.
Whether or not he's still involved in that, he's still making music for those people because they were / are his friends,
and
I guess.
Yeah, and like he's making anthems for them. And if you want your normal pop hits and you don't like this, you can fuck off. It's kind of the feeling I got, right? I like when he was like, the company I keep is not corporate enough. Child rebel soldier, you ain't orphan enough, right? Because like he's this big top dog guy, but he still hangs out with all the street peoples and stuff. He's not really playing the game. He's not conforming to like that Wall Street life, we'll say, or whatever, a CEO life, your normal one. But then, like, one of my favorite lines on the whole project, a rapper turned trapper can't morph into us. So this is where, like, I guess he's criticizing on the current trend of rappers glorifying the drug dealing life, etc. And he's like, listen, you can talk all you want, but you'll never be that. Yeah. And then he counters, but check it, a trapper turned rapper can morph into Puff. And he's like, but on the other hand, all I have to do is start rapping and watch how next thing you know, I'm making Puff Daddy money. And I'm just like, that's the kind of lines that, like, you're just not getting a lot of, I think. Like, it's this dense, brevity-driven, raw emotion type shit.
Yeah.
It's cleverly composed. I did like how he ended it a bit there with solely responsible for showing rappers how to stand on the front lines when trappers started throwing bands. Where were you when Big Meech brought the Tigers in? Because I was busy earning stripes like a tiger skin. And from what he said, that he was trying to make the point that everybody and their brother was talking about his big Meech party, etc. And, you know, he's kind of questioning, when this was going on, what were you doing? And he was out there, not at the party, making sure that he was, like, affiliated in the scene, and he's, like, you know, selling his stuff and doing his thing. And I think the point he's trying to make is he was actually involved in that world at that time.
Yeah.
I think later on the album he puts it, the last of, like, the real, this is, like, the end of an era of this type of drug dealing that could never exist in the future, you know? Either way, the beat is mesmerizing. He is mesmerizing. The chorus with its little, like, references to, like, door hinges that are fucked up on a car to have stash spots that, like, cops learn to, like, look for. And I'm like, so I didn't,
because he had like a lean-to garage or something, and like that's where he would like the way that it was, and the way that it was so like tight and uncomfortable, it was made to be that way because they were trying to like hide what they were doing from the cops, but they were trying to do it in like the open while being discreet about the whole thing because they didn't want to like seem like they were hiding something, I guess.
Right.
So it's pretty clever. It's kind of like what's that, like Scarlet Letter or whatever?
Yeah, but so, like, I mean, the whole premise of the song is, like, as Bonnie said, he's just trying to show you that he knows the real language, and he's not even trying to, like, teach you anything. He's just kind of dropping facts down to say, this is what it is. And if you know what I'm talking about, then you know. Yep. And if you don't, and he kind of leaves it open-ended there. I get this a 5. This was really cool. I've heard this song more than all the other ones because I kind of plussed it right away, and I keep playing it, and I feel like it's
definitely going to be one that grows on me, though.
Because, like, I would recommend that maybe not to judge that first one, at least, just on a first listen. Give it a couple. It's really interesting, to me at least, how it grew on me. And I guess it's just the games we play.
Mm-hmm.
Add water, stir it like a shake. Play amongst the stars like the roof.
All right, Bonnie. How you feel about this one?
This, it was good. I like this one. It has like a really kind of like old timey beat. There's something about it that like makes me feel like an old song. Yeah, but like the whole song, it starts off with the intro, drug dealing Benzes with gold diggers in elevator condos, on everything I love. I think I don't know. But like it's just like an interesting start and like kind of shows like the luxury that they're living with like such like a grimy,
you know what it is?
Grimy situation. It's like such a juxtaposition, you know? Like it's
so no bullshit, right? Because like normally people would be like glorifying it, like I got a bad bitch, but really he's just like fuck that, man. I got a gold digger and this is my life because I'm like he's just grimy about it.
Yeah. So I like that, and I thought that was like, because it's sort of something that's like an elegant and classy car, or like so the ads have told us, and it's like a car being used for like drug dealing, which seems like dirty and like low and like kind of a job for criminals. So it's like a weird sort of, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Yeah. So I find that there's a lot of balance on this song, like a lot of like love and hate, like it's kind of like things just kind of. Like there's a lot of opposites, but they balance out. It's sort of like a yin and yang. Like I can feel that like from this album, and I do kind of come back to that in like another song as well. And I think that that's kind of like something that he likes to do. So as well, I mean he's trying to be like hardcore, and then like. Because he wants to kind of be like Raekwon from the 90s.
And Ghostface.
And Ghostface, yeah. And he's trying to be like that of like this generation, and he's trying to make like the purple tape like he had made. And like, yeah, he's obviously just trying to like show that he is, is or was in like the drug dealing life and, has like a shit ton of cash basically from the game that he played, and he's bragging. Yeah, I thought the song was like good and unique. I gave it a 4 on 5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the beat to this one as much as the last one. I feel like it's varied and it's really cool because it's like you get the sense right away that this project, you already don't know what's going to come next, except that Pusha T is going to come in with hard bars, and it's going to probably have that kind of a cadence to it, And he just comes in again with, like, harshness, like, this ain't a wave or phase, because all that shit fades, this lifestyle's forever. When you made, they tweet about the length, I made him wait, what the fuck you expect when I got a cape, and he's great. And you just get the sense that his confidence is through the fucking roof. Like other people ride trends is what he's pointing out. And there's a lot of people, even in music, you look around, oh, you got to sound like this. Oh, you got to sound like that. Oh, you got to do that. And I think he's a little bit proving the point that he just kind of has to sound like himself because at the end of the day, the life he's lived is interesting enough that he has the legitimacy to come on the record and just be him no matter what the style is, no matter what the sound is, and it's going to come off being fire, and he's a fucking superhero because of that.
Yeah.
The hook on this is pretty awesome. These are the games we play. We are the names they say. This is the drug money your claim he makes. And it's just like he's kind of throwing it down that like he is the representation of literally everything everybody wants to be. And he just does it so nonchalantly, and like he lays it down. He makes that awesome purple tape line.
Yeah.
he also kind of points out a little bit of a warning, I think, to people. And given some of the reactions I've seen on Facebook to the record, this ain't for the conscious. This is for the mud-made monsters who grew up on legends from out of Yonkers, influenced by straight out of Compton. The scale never lies. I'm 2.2 incentivized. If you ain't energized like a bunny for drug money or been paralyzed by the sight of a drug mummy, this ain't really for you. This is for the Goya Montoya, well, who said I couldn't stop and afforded me with all the lawyers. Ooh. So there's a little bit to unpack, I guess, in there. So first of all, he's pointing it out that if you're like geeky on a little bit how I was in like the earlier episodes of this show, there's a good chance that the depth and the passion and I guess the real elements of this might go over your head, because it just comes off like another song about drug dealing at like first listen. But when you really hear what he's going in through, he's expressing this emotional depth and just serious, like,
he's very honest, very raw about like what's going on and what he saw and what was involved in.
He's like saying the things that people think without the filter, I find, that people would normally put on, which I find highly appealing. So he's kind of letting you know that in this. And then he's pointing out that he's influenced by like the gangsters and shit. And then I believe a 2.2 is a crack measurement of a specific amount. I think that's what I learned on TV. I just never wanted to Google that kind of stuff, you know? If you ain't energized like the bunny for drug money or whatever, if you're not like focused on what's going on, if you're not really like
on the grind,
willing to go down, but like also witness like the like you're focused to get that drug money because you've seen the horror of what being on the other side of that fence can be, etc., then it's not really for you. And then he brings up Goya Montoya, who I understand to be a painter who is almost comparable in the sense that it was a bit niche and weird or something. I might be wrong about that part, but it was just showing the like level of culture in the line. Like he's coming from a place of actual knowledge of what he's saying. Like he's really got some interesting and obscure references he throws in, almost like adding a high element of culture to what would otherwise be just these grimy lines, proving that he could be conscious if he wants to in the middle of all this. Anyway,
yeah,
I dug it a lot in terms of the actual rhyming. The last line I wanted to point out is the message in this music, all my had to live out, and I thought that was really cool. Like he's kind of pointing out that this is something that is still a thing that people have had to deal with, and it's still a story worth telling. So I gave this one a 4.5 on 5, and I guess that leads us over to a hard piano.
Yes, sir.
Still do the Fred Astaire on a brick, tap tap, throw the phone.
You like this one?
It was all right. I mean, I did like this one. For this one, this is apparently in reference to Sophie Brasso, who was involved with Drake, and she was a porn star. This is all kind of about that, I think.
The hard piano?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
At least that's what I was reading about. It talks about like how rich he is and how the expensive things that he's got, and he's kind of like flossing, and he keeps it real amongst all like these like people that have like dyed hair and like are trying to be like fake. Like, he tries to keep it real. I'm guessing. I feel like he's like a little bit of a hippie. I'm not sure, but like I'm reading into that.
Wait, why?
Like he's just like a natural guy. He does whatever like he feels. Like it just kind of seems like in like a hard sense he's like a hippie, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So like the chorus was in reference to like the drug kings in the Dominican Republic, and that's what he's referring to. And then that's kind of like where we have like Rick Ross, who's like on the lines, and I think. Verse 2, I think it is. We have, like I said, Rick Ross, and he says, "I can blow $1 million into dust." And I feel like that's crazy when you think about that. And like how it just goes up your nose and it's gone away. And like, it's like no wonder that it's so valuable when you think about it, I guess. Like, that it's just, it could literally be gone with the wind, like $1 million, if it was like in cocaine, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's my opinion. Still gets ladies. He's planning on, getting a Grammy for talking about his friend that got shot. which I guess he does. And the chorus again at the end with the reference to his relationship with the drug trading like hub again in Central America, and like how he feels like a king there and like king among kings, you know? He likes that. So I really liked the beat. It was a really nice flow. I like the sound of it. I gave it a 4.5 on 5.
Yeah, so I didn't catch the Drake part if that was on this. I missed that, but let me know. I mean, I'm not doubting you. I didn't see that. But I was distracted because honestly, he comes in with never trust a bitch who finds love in a camera. So maybe this is the Drake part. She will fuck you and turn around and fuck a janitor. And I was just like, what a funny line, like just in and of itself, right? And I thought it was a little bit of a criticism of like people falling in love with girls on Instagram and these hot people that they see in these whatevers, and then, you know, they go after these people just based off of.
See, I think that was the line, because I think that like maybe in the porn that she was in, she was sleeping with a janitor.
Maybe.
I don't know.
And then that's also possible. Anyways, but then set the parameters, like, you know, apply some discipline to your fucking life or something, because you either with the pro ballers or the amateurs. So what I took from that is he's kind of like, he's stating in the whole like grouping of the lines together, like, look, when you go after these girls that look a certain way and they're all fake and shit, you know, they're just the type of dirty ass girls who will fuck a janitor. I think it was kind of a way of calling them dirty a little bit in a clever sense.
For sure.
And then, you know, you choose your destiny, you choose the quality, raise the standards of who you're with. You're either A game or you fucking whatever, you know? And then it got real interesting to me when he goes, I won't let you ruin my dreams, or Harvey Weinstein the kid. Good morning, Matt Lauer, can I live? When you're using Harvey Weinstein in puns, like, what a world, man. Like, yeah. I mean, and it's really interesting in the context of the sexual lines you just dropped, and to have standards, don't be a sleazy fucking asshole, and then to bring that guy into it. And then Matt Lauer, I believe, was another one that got clipped in the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
I like the I'm too rare amongst all this pink hair line. I took that as with the Lil Pumps and all these other little dudes popping up with pink hair, he's kind of responding that he still represents this real form of rap, so he's a drug seller, not a drug user type, is I guess where he's going with that.
Yeah.
I like when he's like, your bust down is bust down, and don't match the metal lower levels where you settle out on the pot calling the kettle black, between where there's no brick pedals at between God and where the devil's at. And again, you just get this sense of like griminess, but almost this morality to him. Like he is what he is. He is this dark, and he comes from this hellish, awful place, but it's not just like this aimless darkness. He really is on this quest for almost righteousness through it, and it's pretty fucking poetic. Like, anyone who writes this off as just aimless drug bars didn't really take the time to look at like the depth of actually how almost every line is layered in a really cool sense. Then Rick Ross is Rick Ross, and he sounds great.
He reminded me so much of CeeLo.
Maybe. But he kind of doesn't say all that much that I found overly substantial. I did like another episode full of atrocities. It's Double M, Baby Money Monopolies, because of his label, Maybach Music, and then Money Monopolies. It's actually kind of fun how he just played that up. You scared to see my face in a fancy place, so I debate my case versus a Nancy Grace. Apparently Nancy Grace was a TV show host who did some kind of gossipy court bullshit or something. So I think he's trying to like point out that regardless to his levels of success and the fact that he's such a proficient businessman, because of what he looks like, you just kind of still harbor the prejudice in your heart, and he's still trying to like, you know, rep who he is rather than have to go out on there and like, I guess, defend it publicly in a gossipy sense. I don't know. But I think my favorite line in this whole track is the Warhols on my wall paint a war story. Had to find another way to invest because you rappers found every way to ruin Patek's. So Patek's his watches and stuff. So he's like, I had to stop investing in fancy watches and move on to buying Andy Warhol paintings and higher end art because you fucking rappers put your diamonds in it and devalued the whole fucking brand of Patek. You rap about it. You give it so much free press that it basically went from being high end specialty fashion to Gucci, which is now honestly like you look at Gucci and it just feels tacky. I know that to some of y'all might like Gucci. When I think of Gucci, it just comes off almost tacky for how it's so what you're supposed to wear. It's like when I see a kid wearing Obey, It's just everyone wears Obey. It's just
They're all obeying.
I don't know if it's supposed to be ironic or there's a joke I'm missing, but y'all just spending a lot of money on a gray shirt with a logo instead of just buying a gray shirt without the logo for $5. Maybe that's just where I'm at in life, but I don't know. I get it. He's trying to invest his money, not just floss his wealth, and I respect that. So I get his track of 4.5 on 5, and I forgot to just mention before we move on, that chorus is phenomenally sung.
Yeah.
I think it's I forgot the name of who it is. He's in. I put it in the credits below. His voice is fucking incredible. It's just a great melody. It really kind of adds this flavor to the song that almost creates that good theatrical, like you could almost picture this being a soundtrack played out to a movie scene.
Yeah, true.
And I thought it was really cool. So I guess we can talk about Come Back Baby.
Yep.
I've been brilliant. Now we blend in. We chameleons. Ah!
Okay, so this one kind of like starts off. It is like the sample playing, and it's all like churchy almost and gospel-y and whatever. And then it just kind of like flips into just fucking the grimiest, trappiest, fucking old time. I feel like it was almost like an early 90s throwback in the way this beat came in from like the early days of what maybe the Clips would have sounded like once. And I might be wrong, but that's just kind of what I've been triggered with. And unless I'm mistaken, I didn't write it down. This is the little interlude that was talking about how drug addiction is in the hood and it's so prevalent and it's played up over it. And like the skits almost directly talking about the dangers of all the drug use. And then Pusha T just kicks in with, dope just touchdown. I'm so grateful. Number solo. Bitch be thankful. They say that they say don't let money change you. That's how we know money ain't you. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, oh,
like money does change you.
But his attitude is more like you have like just again the juxtaposition of like the preacher guy being like, oh, drugs are bad, they're killing people, it's terrible, and he's just like, oh, the drugs are in, I'm getting paid because I was a little bit broke this week, you know. And like I love just the idea of the attitude of, he says, you know, don't let money change you, you know, it's bad, like getting too rich too quick, up, it's going blah blah blah. And he's like, you know what, that just tells me how broke you fucking are.
Yeah.
And I guess as you start to rise up in life, if you ever hit up grind mode, you will find that people will almost say things like, oh, don't let this happen, because it really just, they don't want to face the challenge in themselves that maybe they're not doing enough, so they end up having it. It's just a proof of concept in a sense is what he's trying to convey. I really like that. It was, again, this depth that you're just not seeing a lot of. And then I guess he kind of goes back to his album title concept. Who else got the luxury to drop what he want? Because nobody else can fuck with me. What a show off. Wrist for wrist, let's have a glow off. Fuck it, brick for brick, let's have a blow off. And I guess what he's trying to show is he's got all the jewelry and the flossing. So if you really want to talk about it while you rent your shit, he can just pull out his collection and back it up. Oh, you want to sell drugs? Well, let him tap into his empire and he'll go brick for brick with you and show you what's going on. And he's willing to back up every claim that he has to make. I also kind of liked when he's like, the good die young, all dogs go to heaven. It's really just mama's following out the reverend. I play musical chairs with the squares. Rich Flair before there was Ric Flair's. And part of it is because it's a wrestling bar, and I like to point out geeky shit like that. And but it was a really clever one because Ric Flair was like a posh, fancy wrestler it's ever, you know, like.
And All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah.
Great movie.
And it's interesting, right? Because it's almost like he's just saying these slogans like the good die young, all dogs go to heaven. It's just some bullshit to him, right? You know, he's taking that concept of the good die young and equating it to this fictional tale of a great movie of dogs going to heaven. It's a good movie.
Very sad movie, if I recall.
And then, yeah, and he's just kind of like, you know, he's just, you know, fucking around with people and stuff. And then I also like how he's just about the people, too. Like, bought hoes Hondas, took care of children, let my pastor build out buildings, rapped on classics I've been built in, now we blend in chameleons. Ah! He makes that fucking noise he makes. But he's trying to point out that he did all this give back to the community shit. Like, it's not just like he fucked a hose. He fucked a hose, and then he bought them a car and took care of their kids. He went to church and bought them that little building they needed. He invested back, and you just see that, like, it's not just about personal profit. It's about doing the right thing. I get this a 5, man. Between the awesome sample-y bits that are used and just the grimy fucking anthem sounds of Pusha T, I was blown away by it. Really cool song to me.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, I just thought it was a song about like the love of like dope and like the love of money that it makes him. Like, he doesn't like you know, like I said, he doesn't really care for it, but you know, he enjoys the money that it brings him. He's like a legit drug dealer, basically. And like you touched on, you know, money does change you, he's saying, and he's just kind of like, you wouldn't understand. If you don't have money, you just don't get it. You know, again, the same sort of thing. Gave his money to like build churches and do good things. And like he was really investing in like his community, which I think is really great. You know, like he's trying to like build them up. But, you know, unfortunately by doing like a shitty thing, I guess. But like he's using that money for good. So I think it's also kind of like to distract you from like the negative stuff that he's like up to. And I think it's also to repent a bit. Like if he is going to church and he's helping to, you know, he's putting money into the church, I think he obviously does care about religion and like, you know, to some degree at least. I you know, I'm not going to speak for him. I don't know what his religion is or anything. But it sounds like he's kind of like, I'm going to do this to like, you know, be a better person, you know, kind of. I think he's trying to do that. And he also has probably a lot of money and he doesn't really know where to put it. So balance is important, which he says, which we see in his music. And it's just like one more time, one more deal. Like he's got to like, you know, kind of get out there one more time. He just has to make one more sale or whatever, you know, like he's so involved in like the life that he was living. So I thought it was really good. I thought it was really honest, and I appreciate that. So I gave it a 4 on 5.
All right, let's talk about Santeria.
Okay.
All the wrong moves, watching the untouchables. We don't do vegetables. Niggas get flat.
So Santeria is the way of the saints, and it's a Cuban religion that uses mediums and divination to communicate to spirits and deities. So, according to the genius thing I'm ripping off here, to cope with the pain, Push speaks to the spirit of his friend Devon, sharing his battles of vengeance and distress over what sadly happened, of which his friend died. So the song is aptly titled if it's really just about him speaking to his deceased friend, and he's kind of taking on that philosophy and using his music as a portal and stuff. That Spanish bit at the end translates to "you leave once the morning comes," then a double entendre of either Los Angeles will wait or the angels will wait. And it's more likely talking about kind of like Los Angeles, you know, the city or whatever. But either way, just that's what I got from the genius annotation again, because whenever I see other languages, I feel like we need that translation. Otherwise, this beat is gorgeous. Like it's another one of those progressive, it evolves as the song goes on in a really cool and almost emotional way where you feel the weight and the impact of his words and his feelings as he's going through it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, of all the things I've ever paid for, know that it's no price tag when I wage war. It's no more to pray for it. Get preyed on, darken my doorstep. They told me the day's gone. You listening, Devon? Yes, I'm talking to your spirit, for God's sake. I'm dealing with heartbreak. And it's just like, it's again this blunt and honesty where instead of just showing that he's just full of flossy materialism and whatever, he's also adding in this extra element of emotions and pain where like he really feels, you know, in a way where maybe other people aren't so willing to show that side of themselves. I like the part when he's like, and all praise no jails, bars can save, leave you like Malcolm or X marks your graves. Hey, it's probably better this way. It's cheaper when the chaplain prays Santeria. And the way he's putting it there is like, well, listen, if you die in jail, at the end of the day, it's likely going to be cheaper for you and your family to have, like, you know, the funeral arrangements and shit taken care of out there and have that guy take care of it, you know, put you in a box over there.
It may not be glamorous or anything.
But, like, I had a friend pass away, you know, a few years back, and I remember hearing the family talk about the funeral costs up in Montreal, and it was, like, fucking insane. And these are, like, not people with money, you know, we're talking on the very lower end of the income, and it was just like 5 figures for a funeral. And what are you supposed to do? Because the dude was in his 20s, you know. It's like, it's just an uncomfortable situation. And so that was just an interesting line to me, and it made me think of that. Also, the party's like, the Lord is my shepherd. I am not sheep. I'm just a short stone's throw from the streets. I bring my offering. I will not preach. Awaken my demons. You can hear that man screaming. I'm no different than the priest. Priest sent it, you know? And because he's, in this sense, kind of speaking from more of a religious point of view, being the leader, while coming in and just expressing himself and showing that he's so close to almost being back where he came from, but really instead he's just, using his voice almost to call it. That's how at least I interpreted it. But man, this is some beautiful shit. I gave it ultimately a 4.5 on 5. I think it's really fun to listen to, really cool song. And yeah, that's what I gotta say about that.
All right. So yeah, I mean, this is basically, I feel like there's not going to really be too much more. The song's 2 minutes and 56 seconds. I mean, most of the songs are pretty short on this album as well. So yeah, he just said that this one was like, quite emotional, obviously, for him. He also talks about you killed one of his homies, and now that has happened, like they will never be homies again. Like, like he's kind of like I'm never going to forgive you for this, like basically. And he drives around with like his super tinted windows, like he's got like presidential type tint, which is probably illegal. So like the choir or something that was singing in Spanish with like the bullet sounds going off, I thought that was kind of interesting and relevant. I mean, we kind of saw that in
This Is America.
Yeah. So that, yeah, he was talking about Davon Pickett, who was his road manager actually, and was killed. And that's the spirit that he's talking to. And then like you touched on about like the jail sentence and dying in jail and like the prices and that. So yeah, I gave this one a 4 on 5. It is a powerful topic, but I just wasn't a fan of how it sounded. Like I wasn't necessarily a fan of like the Spanish choir in it. I found them really creepy, actually. My bad.
Well, what would Meek do?
Let's find out.
I let the monies and the fools talk. I let the Jews and the hues.
So we got Kanye. We got Pusha T. How do you feel, Bonnie?
Yeah. This is basically them just trying to imagine what Meek Mill would do because he's in jail. And Pusha's verse is fine. I listened to it. It was fine. And then it's Kanye. And when we hear Kanye, it's like, what?
Okay.
What?
He goes, poop, 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 scoop, whoop, whoopie, whoopie, whoop, or whatever he does.
You're like, what the fuck is happening?
Okay, do you know what that's about?
Yeah, I heard something about it.
So,
and like, he just let it be. He was like, you know what? He's a genius. He's an artist. Like, this is what
No, but it was, okay, so Ebro from Hot 97 talks some shit about Kanye because that dude talks a lot of shit about a lot of people. And then Kanye put out this tweet, I'm about to drop this song called Lift Yourself or whatever, and it's got the fierest verse. It's the definitive response he's looking for. And he puts it out in the whole song. It's like built up and it samples and it's fucking gorgeous sounding for like 2 minutes. And then he's just like, poopy scoopy whoop, whoopy scoopy, without the distortion. He just does that for a minute. It's just Kanye in his song form, blew him a raspberry with like the fucking like song.
Yeah.
That's what he did. Because it matters the context, because the line right before that is Kanye with the hating what you ask you, the fucking line where he asks if they're hating what you're going to tell them. And then he goes, well, if they're going to hate him, I'm going to release a song and go poopty scoopty whoopty whoop because I'm fucking Kanye, like I gotta respect it. I mean, at first it is the most ridiculous shit. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But in context, it's pretty fucking cool.
I guess. I mean, it's weird. I guess, like, I mean, if you're not doing research when you're listening to an album, which I feel like most people don't, like, they're not really going to get that reference, right?
Just to counter, I'd say a lot of people, at least in the last month, have paid attention to Kanye and maybe would have watched this interview and would be aware of what's going on. And this is one of those times where I think the artist involved can get away with it because the bulk of people listening to it will know what's going on.
Yeah, I think those who are like really interested, but like the people who are like...
To quote Pusha T, if you know, you know.
True. Yeah.
You know?
True. anyways, let's just keep going. So he talks about having like the surrogate with Kim, which she did, and they had I think a son. And like he's always controversial when he speaks, and people think he's out of touch, but he's just like basically saying like he's so ahead of his game and ahead of like everybody else that's why he seems weird. So I gave this one a 3.5 on 5. I feel like this song is good when Pusha is on it, and then Kanye comes in and like, I don't know. I just feel like he's just like a piece of shit, like a little bit on this song. Like he's just trying to be like a piece of shit. Like he's just like trying to like rile us up and whatever. Like I know he's an artist. I know he just sounds like he doesn't like take anything seriously. Like I feel like I would just get irritated with Kanye, and like I just feel like he takes advantage kind of other people's music by doing this on other people's music instead of like on his own album when he does stuff like this. And by using like the controversial cover, which I mean, I think it is, obviously pushing him to the top and like he's being, talked about. But I think it is also he's taking like that risk, not with his own music or album, but with somebody else's. And I think that there's that as well. But like, I mean, I know you guys are going to hate me for this.
No, I mean, I've even seen that opinion online. I just got to say, in light of having heard Kanye's album, I don't think he's not willing to take the risk on his own project.
No, I mean, I think he does whatever he does, and I think everything he does is a risk.
But I also don't think, I mean, I get where you're coming from. I look at it a little bit more like this is a bit of an explanation in them responding to their various haters, right? Like, I like Pusha T's in like first verse, because Kanye asked, hating on him, what we gonna say? And he's like, and then he goes in and he starts rapping, and then he gets to the part where he's like, angel on my shoulder, what should we do? Devil on the other, what would Meek do? And they're sitting in these situations where I feel like they have these moments happening and they start questioning stuff. I know I saw that Pusha T had said that he called this What Would Meek Do because Meek's in jail, and he wanted Meek on the song, and he wanted to kind of, I think somebody just got Kodak on their record and he was in jail. I think he wanted to do the same kind of thing. I think it was ASAP who did that last week. He had Kodak Black do like a minute from jail. And I think he wanted to do a similar kind of thing with Meek or whatever. And anyway, then Papa Wheelie, tell the judge to Akinele. And apparently Akinele made porn rap back in the day, so that's like telling the job to like fuck off or whatever in like a really obscure reference way. Yep. So it's again, like if you know what the fuck he's talking about, the lines are good. And I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to keep it coded, Then I really liked the middle fingers out the ghost screaming Machiavelli with the clear and obvious "Come with me" from like the Tupac Hail Mary song with the Hail Mary, the scale fairy. So he just kind of says Hail Mary in the next line. 2 sides to every coin, so we bail ready. So like at the end of it, they're just prepared for like when they get locked down and shit, and they got the the bail money ready to go because of the drug situation that gets you kind of locked up. Then it kind of flips into Kanye's verse where he goes to poop, scoop, whoop, whoop-de-whoop, which at first I was like, what the fuck? But then I learned about what he was doing, and now I'm going, good on you, Kanye. Flip the finger, because the next line is, am I too complex for Complex Con, right? So Complex is another hip-hop media institution. So he's kind of calling out the different ones. Notice nobody shits on Breakfast Club. Everybody fucking loves Charlamagne the God. And he kind of attacks the other outlets, and he's like, yo, what, you guys don't really want me, they don't really understand him. Everything Ye say cause a new debate. You see, he been out of touch, he cannot relate. His hallway too long, bitch too bad, or whatever. So I think I kind of skipped ahead in the verse there, but everything that Kanye says is kind of like sparking a bit of a debate with people, which is true, but like, I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it, but I read the Kanye West tweets. I don't want to go too much into it, but I do think people are cherry picking out of context what they want to feel from what Kanye is saying. And when he tries to explain himself, they ignore the fact that he's a convoluted fucker who has trouble explaining himself.
Yes.
And then ostracize him like he's not a convoluted fucker who has trouble explaining himself. Like, if you really think about it, Kanye 8 years ago was a narcissistic prick nobody liked. Compared to then, this guy's humble. Like
compared to, yes.
Nobody's really taking into account that he really grows. I've become a really big fan of Kanye West's personality and shit just over time because he's such an interesting, modern, great figure to really look at, and there's stuff to learn from this guy instead of just hating him per se. Anyway, I like the whole got a surrogate, his kid get two dads. I be think, sorry, and he's commenting there a little bit about how he literally got feedback. People like, oh, I guess he has another father. He's like, nah, the surrogate means it's like, it's my sperm, you fucking idiots. And he's addressing it. But the fact that people are coming at him like that, like,
yeah, I mean, people just don't know.
I don't know why everybody has to hate Kim Kardashian the way that they do. It's so weird to me. This girl is just better than most of us. I don't care what y'all want to say. The woman flipped a porn situation into a multi-million-dollar empire, and 99% of the people watching this would do the same if they knew the same thing would happen to them. And all she does is make money and do some shit on the internet, and everybody hates her, and she gets paid more. So it's like her literal job for you to hate her. So if you want her to go away, you have to ignore the demon, not hate her. I'm just putting it into perspective of how I see that shit. But I think Kanye really sells his point here. I be thinking, what would Tupac do? You be thinking, what New Kids on the Block do? So he's pointing out here that he is thinking like Tupac, a revolutionary to challenge the status quo, and we're all safe and pop like New Kids on the Block. True. And it might come off arrogant, but I do think he's trying to explain his point of view without compromising his dignity. But I still gave it a 4. It kind of felt a bit more like a whiny song, considering the rest of it was so harsh and so this one felt a little unnecessary compared to the rest of them. And yeah, I guess there's one more on this project.
Infrared.
In these waves, I pulled my sandals out. Hefe Latin my Grammy, I went the Spanish route.
Bonnie, how do you feel about this one?
So he's got the sight kind of like to spot the truth behind people. Like he doesn't, he can see through like their like bullshit, I guess. And like he also talks about like how Drake uses ghostwriters, and he believes in J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar for making changes along with himself. Like he like puts himself in the same like boat as them. Which I think is kind of cool that he's kind of in that conscious, or that he thinks he's in that conscious rapper level. And then he also talks about Will Smith having won the first rap Grammy in 1988, I think it was, which I think he just thinks is funny.
Well, I don't know. That was because they had protested it too. Like there was something to it. Like they didn't televise that Grammy or something like that. And then Will Smith and them all protested and didn't actually go to it, even though he won. I didn't actually quote that line, so I don't remember the context of it.
Yeah, I'd have to look back at that. But I mean, I think that's. Anyways, he just talks about that, and then he says, "How?"
I did quote that one. Go on.
Yeah, he says that, "How could you ever right these wrongs when you don't even write your songs? But let us all play along. We all know what blanks for real be waiting on." So I think that this is like. Yeah, push. And I think that is like fire. Like I think that is like some serious shade. So Drake apparently has people that he trusts telling him like that he uses ghostwriters. And I like that, like the strange ending of the song as well. And sort of like a breath outwards. I don't know. It just sounded really like unique at the end. So I gave this one a 4.5 on 5. It was pretty interesting and pretty like harsh and like critical.
All right. So now I think we get a good idea of what the devil on Pusha's shoulders was. He had some dirt on Drake, and he wondered, what would Meek do? And we know what Meek did. Meek spoiled the whole Quentin ghostwriting scandal and that rap beef where I don't know. They say that Drake bodied Meek, and I say that nobody really won that beef, and that's where we're going to end that one. But apparently, Drake took shots at Pusha T on 2 birds, 1 stone off of More Life, and at the time, I didn't get any of those references, so I'm going to just say apparently. I read the bars in Genius Annotation, and Pusha T does directly respond to a couple of things in that song. But even from the very beginning, the game's fucked up, beats is banging, your hooks did it, the lyric pennant equal to the Trump winning. The bigger question is how the Russians did it. It was written like Nas, but it came from Quentin. I mean, holy shit. Like, what a way to start off coming in at Drake. Now, in my opinion, it's not a real diss song unless you really identify your target in, like, a proper way. I know that there's subliminals and there's shades and stuff, but when he brought that Quentin line into it, it was undeniable. This is about fucking Drake. And he's pointed out, yo, your beats is good, dude. Your hooks is fire. But your lyrics have the authenticity and validity of Donald Trump's political campaign, motherfucker. I mean, that's a burn, if there was ever a burn. And then, reason the Russians did it, line, etc. But, like, to the Grammy point, shit, remember when Will Smith won the first Grammy, you know, it wasn't really treated seriously. It wasn't really a real thing. They ain't recognized Hove till Annie, so he had to actually take Hard Knock Life and sample it and do that on, I think it was a second or third project, until they started to give Jay-Z the recognition that he deserved. So I don't tap dance for the crackers and sing Mammy, which he's kind of accusing Drake of doing with all of his Grammys and all of his accolades that he has going on for him. Because I'm supposed to juggle these flows and nose candy, get exposed to see the cracks, and I'm the liar. Shit, I've been exposed. I took the crack and built the wire. Now who do you admire? And here he has him kind of pointing out that while you're doing all this flashy, dancy shit for your fucking Apple partnership and all that other crap, I'm out there selling drugs and dealing with the fiends and the world that I come from, etc. So at the end of the day, he took the crack and built the wire. That's a sick line, because The Wire is a show about crack selling. For those who don't know, you all know. And I like it, just the boldness. Who do you admire?
I would stick with Drake. That's just me.
Okay. And then your rap song says, I'll try my places, then prices ain't real without inflation. I don't remember what that is exactly about, but I believe it's directly referencing the Two Birds One Stone song. How could you ever write these rhymes? Bonnie pointed that out. It's fucking incredible. Yeah, and then I liked where he's like, let's crab numbers easily. The only rapper sold more dope than me was Eazy-E. Now, I brought this up because, you know, Drake kind of called out the questionability of if Pusha T ever sold drugs and whether or not he really did it. So Pusha T responds here with this line. Ultimately, I get it's a 4.5 on 5. As far as diss songs go, this one's pretty fire. Pusha T's pretty savage. And look, I'm Canadian, so if it comes down to it, it's hard to really side with Pusha T. You know, just the homeland and all. Drake's done a lot for Canadian hip-hop. I mean, Drake's just done a lot for Canada musically. Saw this guy in Montreal Mellow post about just at the end of the day, whoever wins, it's kind of important to remember. In hip-hop, you side with your own, you know? So at the end of the day, that's just something worth stating. But then Drake had to go ahead and respond, right? And I don't think Bonnie actually listened to the responses, but
I
think it's the Duppy freestyle or whatever. And look, he goes in this, your brother said it was your cousin, then him, then you, so don't rap what you did, you just rap what you knew. Don't be ashamed, there's plenty that do what you do. There's no malice in your heart, you're an approachable dude. So no malice being his brother and a little cheap shot. So I'll give it to Drake. He did the little line to make it clear. I'll give it to him this time. But Drake said this, and I listened to the No Malice interview on DJ Vlad that people think he's talking about, and what No Malice actually said was that the cousins had it set up, and then No Malice got into the game. Then he went into the army, and when he got out of the army, Push had gotten into the game because he was into the money, because I think Malice is the older one, and Push is younger, and then Push was in the game. So what was really said is the sequence of who got into the game is how Drake put it out, but like Drake just kind of twisted and made up some fabrication if that's interview. So if somebody has a source where No Malice actually says the things Drake said, I'd be curious. Otherwise, it's a little bit of like him kind of stretching the truth and fabricating some shit, which I don't know. It's just not as authentic sounding, unfortunately, for Team Canada over here. And then I did like where he spoofs the my hooks did it, my lyrics did it, my spirit did it, I'm fearless with it. All right, props to Drake. That's pretty cool. I really shouldn't have given you more of my time because you older than you running behind. Look, holla at me when you multi-million. I told you to keep playing my name and I'm going to let it ring like Virginia Williams. And then I was just like, meh, there it is. The Young Money fucking defense. And every time Young Money people are all up inside of this fucking like beef line, it's always the same thing. Oh, I sold more records than you, so guess what? I don't really need to respond unless you sell enough records for me.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, okay, Drake. I mean, you could have done some authentic bullshit coming at him, but you don't have a lot, so you fall back on how you're richer and stuff. But I think that's kind of almost to the point of what Pusha T was talking about in the first place.
Yeah.
Fine. What was really funny is how after that Pusha T, Drake and OVO actually sent Good Music an invoice for $100,000 for services rendered in free promotion. Funny move on Drake's end. And then there's still one more song here where we have the story of Abaddon, which is the response from Pusha T, where he put out a picture of blackface Drake and tells us the story of kind of how the porn star girl had the kid with Drake, and there's the text messages where he's like, fuck you, get an abortion, and he's being a complete and utter fucking dick. But it's pretty solid. I like the response. I didn't give grades to either of the responses just because whatever, but drug dealing aside, ghostwriting aside, let's have a heart-to-heart about your pride. Even though you're multi, I see that your soul don't look alive. The M's count different when baby divides the pie. Wait, let's examine why. Your music for the past year's been angry and full of lies. You just called out Drake in a really honest way that I couldn't, those lines I couldn't disagree with, even whatever. I mean, I don't really know how to defend that argument because it was pretty apt, is all I'm saying. It's some of the same feelings I have felt listening to Drake's music. He kind of ends it saying, this is just it. This is the first layer of the onion, dude. The surgical breakdown, or no, surgical fucking summer is coming, and he's going to come at Drake and do what he got to do.
Yeesh.
And I guess, yeah, that's it. So I guess we can quickly wrap up this first part of this review, the Daytona album review.
What'd you give it?
I give this project here a 4.57. I thought the beats is fucking pretty solid. It's extremely well produced. There's really only the one song with the Kanye that I thought was a little bit weird, but every other song was raw, real, and it was either like perfect or near fucking perfect, you know? Like, they're really well constructed, like emotion-driven, bar-driven, lyrical, hard shit. I really dug it.
Cool. I gave it a 4.10. I thought it was really good. Maybe like there was just like something about it that like wasn't like my cup of tea. But I mean, overall, I mean, every song is good. Like there's not like a bad song on here. You know, like I said, the one with Kanye, I gave it a little bit of lower mark. But just because I felt like Kanye pulled it down and not Pusha T, I didn't want to take away from him. Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's go check out Kanye.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just do a little bit. We've reviewed The College Dropout by Kanye West, so in that review, and I'll link to it over there, you can kind of get a better sense of how acclimated we are to him. I think it's safe to say we both, I'm like I said earlier in this review, I'm a big Kanye fan of late. Everything I've heard, the more I hear of his music, I've come to appreciate him. I've heard quite a few of his projects now. I look forward to reviewing more of them. I think the guy is the weirdest, genius-y, like Kanye is up to something, whether or not you like his politics or whether or not he expresses himself coherently. And I admit, man, saying things like 400 years of slavery is a choice is stupid.
Yeah.
Because it's like he didn't really consider the impact of his words. But had he said what he wanted to say or meant to say, you know, the whole thing would have been avoided. And I wonder if 50-year-old Kanye will know how to express himself properly and actually be
I think he's just still learning. I think he's doing some major fuck-ups, and then he's going to learn from them, and he's going to be better.
Yeah,
and I think that's all we can expect, right?
I agree. I think Kanye is definitely not like a lost cause in all of this. So then after all this is the second album, I guess, in Good Music's thing. We have Ye, which is the name of Kanye's new album. And then it's got this little album cover. I don't know, Ye, Kanye, it's his nickname. That's what he called it. I have almost no fucking feelings on Ye being the name of the album. It's just whatever. Google kept thinking I was typing Yeezus. I wasn't. I was trying to type Ye. I didn't have relevancy yet. I do like the cover. It's this kind of picture, and I from what Kim Kardashian said, it's where the album listening party was. It's kind of,
he was on the way to the album listening, and he likes to record in Wyoming, and that's where that picture was taken of the Wyoming mountains, and that's, I mean, he just took a picture of nature on, you know, and no particular great day. It wasn't anything particularly gorgeous.
Like
it was just
even.
beautiful nature.
And then on the front of the thing, it goes, I hate being bipolar. It's awesome. And boom, Kanye just comes in, and I think that the text on the front of that cover is just very powerful. I saw some very mixed reviews online. Some people felt that this is a great excuse after the fact for his behavior, or in another way of looking at it is Kanye's explaining to you what he's come to understand about himself.
Or he's finally dealing with it, I think.
Yeah, he's addressed his problems, and this is the album he's chosen to express himself. So it's impossible to go into this album without thinking about that. He's made it abundantly clear that, and he has such a bipolar way of wording it. It's almost as if that's the actual name of the album. I hate being bipolar. It's awesome. But no, it's called Yay. So I guess that's what he's saying. That's almost like a representation. So I thought that was actually kind of cool. And if you'll check below in the description, there's you can make your own Kanye Yay album cover, and you load it up. It's Kanye who put this out, and you type in what you want, and you download it, and boom, you got your own. And then you could upload it to Facebook, and we can all be cool and make Kanye famous. Yeah, like he needs that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any more feelings on this before we get into it.
No, I would like to think about, I thought about killing you.
Thanks, baby.
So loud, got no lungs. Hurt so bad, I go numb. Time to bring in the...
All right, Bonnie. How do you feel about your first track on Yay after threatening my life?
It wasn't threatening. I thought about killing you.
Oh, okay. Fantasizing.
Yeah, you know. So Kanye is basically just discussing in this song about how he wants to kill himself, but he loves himself so much that he can't do it. And he's sort of, he's thinking about it, and, he's weighing all the options. But I think that he's also saying that these are things that you need to do if you are kind of planning on killing yourself or thinking about it or feeling suicidal. I think it's kind of like a positive message in the end. Like he's kind of saying like, love yourself more than that. And he also says, he doesn't, don't do it, I guess, basically. But he also says to like, say it out loud, see how it sounds, how it feels, register that feeling. I think that that's kind of important. Like, don't just let it like sit in your head. Say it out loud. I mean, even if it's not to anybody and it's just to yourself, I think it's important just to get that out. Get it on paper, get it out, whatever you have to do. And I think that, that'll make you think about maybe not doing it. So it sounds like he's obviously, dealing with mental health issues here. But he is understanding. And even like the great and mighty, Kanye West has, issues to deal with, and like depression and suicidal thoughts, and, he's going through stuff, right? And which is fair because, he's in the spotlight all the time. And then anybody who's in the spotlight all the time is eventually going to go crazy. They're being watched 24 hours a day. Like they're going to go crazy like an animal in a zoo. So it just makes sense.
I think it's also worth pointing out, and I think people forget about this, on his first album, he's like, I buy really nice things to make you feel bad because it makes me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
That's the same guy we're talking about, like all this time. It's not like this was ever new. This was just always him, and everyone is just acting surprised that he became this way. But, like, look back in time. Kanye's workout plan is quite the interesting telltale sign of Kanye West's personality.
Yep. And, like, as well, like, on this song, like, the pitch changes, like, kind of, I think, to reflect, like, maybe his highs and lows. And, like, it sounds like, he's dealing with a lot of things to do with his medication, as well as maybe some self-medication that he's doing. I think he also mentions cocaine at that point.
Well, what he's saying there is, I need Coke with no rum. So he is taking his Coke Virgin. I taste Coke on her tongue.
Oh, I was thinking of cocaine.
No, but then he's saying, I taste Coke on her tongue, as in cocaine.
But maybe it's Coca-Cola.
I don't joke with no one. They'll say he dies so young, but I think what he's trying to convey there is that he's sober. Everyone's criticizing him like he's crazy, but yet the people that he's encountering are also fucked up on drugs but criticizing him,
Yeah.
I think that's a little more what he's trying to convey with that.
You might be right. I'm not sure. I don't want to like just imply that he's on cocaine, I guess. Unless he is, I don't know.
Well, he was addicted to painkillers, I think, for a while, and then he got sober. The last I heard, he was sober.
Yeah. And like also, I just wanted to say that the song changes like basically like halfway through to be like like really dark and scary sounding a little bit. And I think that that's maybe what his thoughts are sometimes like. It's a kind of like this song is like being in Kanye's head. And then we have a lot more of the N-word in the second half, which I noticed as well. Like he's more aggressive. He's like, you know, he's changed his tone, obviously. And everyone is basically just watching and waiting for him to go crazy. And it's kind of sad, but it's honest. I gave this a 4.25. I really liked it.
Yeah. I think the first part when he says, I think about killing you, I think he might actually be talking to people. And himself, right?
Yeah.
Because if you listen to what he says, the most beautiful thoughts are always beside us the darkest. So, I mean...
But that's bipolar.
Right, but even to that end, it's just kind of implying the beauty and the poetry of the world. In order to even have the most beautiful things, you have to have the darkest things next to it. So
I think also he's...
I mean, yeah, I know that
maybe comparing himself to Kim and Kanye. Like, he's like this, you know, dark figure, blah, blah. He's, you know, feeling angry, and maybe she's like the light in his life. Like, I don't know. I was just trying to, like...
Or maybe he is talking about Kim. But in general, I still thought it was pretty poetic. But then he's like, to follow that up, today I seriously thought about killing you. So he's going to let you know what the darkest thoughts are. And if you look at the flow of the album, it makes actual sense in hindsight. So he's almost prefacing how this album's going to come out. He's going to give you the absolute darkest sides of himself to then be able to show you the bright sides that we'll get to later on the album, which is a connection I just made now.
Yeah.
So he contemplated premeditated murder, and I think about killing myself, and I love myself way more than you. So what I took from that is, you're right. I think he is pointing out, I think about committing suicide, but at the end of the day, I love myself, so I can't really go ahead, you know. But the fact is, I love myself, and that's what stops me from doing it. But I love myself more than I love you. And that's the only thing that's really stopping me. And you got to imagine, if I'm actually willing to think about killing myself, you got to imagine that I'm fucking thinking about killing you as well.
Yeah. Like you're like not even like a second thought, you know?
You know, and he just kind of goes through that. And I think about killing myself. I love myself or whatever. Just say it out loud. Just people say, don't say this, don't say that. Just say it out loud just to see how it feels. Weigh all the options. Nothing's off the table. This is the kind of thinking that led up to the MAGA hat situation where he's trying to say, like, in a climate where you're not even allowed to have opinions that are contrary to popular opinion without being fucking fired because social justice warriors attack you on Facebook and shit, he's pointing out, instead of that sheltered way of feeling, say some shit that might be inappropriate out loud so you can have a better understanding of what the honest truth of who you are is. Based on all these books I'm reading on self-fucking growth and stuff, it's not that different than the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is just Kanye's literally saying the same thing Stephen Covey is saying. So it's kind of hard to hate the message when you really understand the source material of better thinking. Whether or not you agree with Kanye, it's just not ridiculous what he's saying. It's ridiculous how he's saying it. And then I love when he's like, I think this is the part where I'm supposed to say something good to compensate it so that it doesn't come off bad. But sometimes I think really bad things, really, really, really bad things. And I love myself way more than I love you. See, if I was trying to relate it to more people, I'd probably say I'm struggling with loving myself because that seems like the common theme, but that's not the case here. Now, I'm a narcissist, and as you may have watched in some of my videos for those who've been here, I have a little bit of trouble relating to people, but I can relate to Kanye West here because what he's trying to point out is he doesn't actually hate himself the way that everyone else seems to hate themselves. He actually loves himself. He's actually so into himself that he feels confident to go out there and say these things that are maybe provocative and to be different. He's understands and empathetic enough to the situation to know that in light of all the dark shit he's just said, people have the societal expectation for Kanye West to return to form and be like, okay, here's the Hollywood ending you're all looking for. And he says, no, I'm self-aware enough to know that's what you want, but I love myself more than you, so I'm going to stay true to me. And again, I can't hate that line of thinking when you really break down what he's trying to say here. It's not just aimless narcissistic crap. It's a guy who's trying to take ownership in his life, especially after fucking up a lot of thingies. Then he breaks into the more rappy part with the more druggy stuff. And I don't joke with no one. They'll say he'll die so young. I done had a bad case of too many bad days, got too many bad traits, used the floor for ashtrays. I don't do shit halfway. You know, he's just kind of putting it out that he's gone through some shit. He understands the darker times, and he's willing to go in full force at all costs, no matter what, because he's
you know what they say. There's no such thing as a halfway crook.
That's true. And anyway, I put that on my last name. It's different type of rules that we obey. And I understand where he's coming from. Because when you have the power within yourself to create your own paradigm and to look at the world around you and to create change, you really are playing by a different set of rules than how to fit in and be normal. So I get where he's coming from. So call me a weirdo if you want, but I get this on 4.5 on 5. His spoken word delivery at the beginning is a little bit, it's interesting. Like the song feels more like an art piece than like a song to me, like a very expressive and interesting art piece. And I could say a lot of people are going to relate to this, and a lot of people are going to feel like he's whoring out the cause for his point. I stand by that. If this is true and he's bipolar and this is how he feels, this is a fair thing for Kanye to do. And if you struggle with something similar and feel like he's exploiting it, sorry, this is Kanye's right to express this shit, just as it's your right to feel offended. So at the end of the day, in Kanye's mentality, you take ownership and not feel offended and go make $1 million on your own. That's how Kanye would do. Yikes.
Russell Simmons wanna pray for me too. I'ma pray for him cause he got me.
So this one, I love the chorus. The shit could get menacing, frightening, find help. Sometimes I scare myself, and he's singing it in a really kind of almost rockish way, and it sounds really cool to me, at least. Then the beat flows in, and we find out that this is kind of a little bit about his struggle with drugs and shit, right? Mm-hmm. Tweaking off that 2CB, huh? Is he gonna make it TBD, huh? To be determined, for those who don't know.
And the TC2, I think, is the drug that he was on for, I think, maybe his bipolar or something. Like, it is like a hallucinogenic drug or a schizo drug, something for that.
I also think it's something you probably can get high off of if you're a little bit not paying attention.
Yeah, like any drug, I suppose.
Thought I was going to run DMC, huh? Okay, that one was run, whatever. See this, I done died, lived again on DMT, huh? See, this the type of high that won't come down. This the type of high that gets you gunned down. You really get this sense that he is mixed with these drugs, mixed with his condition and the feelings of soaring up. If you ever really look at somebody who is bipolar, what is it? Fuck the show with the poor people that we were watching, Shameless, and you have the kid and he is bipolar and he starts freaking the fuck out. And if you really understand the disease, I mean, Kanye's behavior, it makes some sense. I'm just not one to really judge the way a lot of people do. I think people really are critical of Kanye in a way that just doesn't seem fair, in my opinion. But I really like the part where he's like, Russell Simmons want to pray for me too. I'm going to pray for him because he got hashtag me too, thinking, what if that happened to me too? Then I'm on E! News. So he has Russell there praying for him, like, oh, Kanye, blah, blah, blah. And then, oh, that guy got clipped from sexual harassment claims. But then Kanye's thinking, you know, what happens if one day I'm on E! News and everyone's accusing me of some shit, you know? Like, he's not even innocent to this situation and that paranoia. And I think that's a level of self-awareness that a lot of people don't have.
I mean, it is also like a very like common thing that was like all over the news like for like the last like year.
But it's not implausible that it happens to Kanye one day, whether it's a real story or not. It's just not implausible, you know? So the fact that he's self-aware enough to know that it could happen to him and because of his past is an interesting thing to me. I like what you see. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I fuck with Ye. That's my third person part. That's my bipolar shit. What? That's my superpower. Ain't no disability. I'm a superhero. And he starts screaming and shit. And that's how he ends the song. And I get that. Like, I'm a bit weird. Like, this is borderline personality disorder running through my family. So I'm a little off compared to, like, the average person, I want to say. And I get where he's coming from, man. If you are not normal, you are able to break past normalcy. And you're able to look at situations from a different perspective that honestly gives you a competitive edge over other people in life. So I kind of understand his point of view. Kanye is not a failure in life. So, you know, like, he's fueled by this, and he's made it abundantly clear for, like, 9 projects now, and, like, I get it. Yep. I gave the song a 4.5 on 5. I thought it was really cool, great energy, really interesting, and a fucking cool title for what it's about, you know?
Yep. You basically said everything I was going to say. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, he just kind of like touches on things that are kind of controversial, which is like pretty much everything that he says. Often, you know, he talks about the Me Too movement, and like how he does things differently, and because of his oddness and his like bipolar, he doesn't feel he doesn't really feel like that it's like a detriment. It's only like it's his superpower. It's like, and that's what makes him a superhero. Like, he's able to do this like despite and like because of his mental illness, and I think that's great, I guess. Same thing, I gave it a 4.5 on 5. Let's check out All Mine.
Who this shit? Yeah, you supermodel thing. Ass busting out the bottom.
All right, Bonnie, how'd you feel about this one?
This was another short one, 2 minutes, 26 seconds. It starts off with, I love your titties because they prove I can focus on 2 things at once. Maybe that's not the first line.
No,
but
that's definitely farther into the song.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, actually. I just thought that was very funny. It's a funny line. And this is all just about how he loves ladies and how he can kind of get in trouble for, like, you know, his involuntary movements and like responses to lovely ladies that he sees all the time. And then he also talks about like a supermodel type body with a thick ass. And I'm going to say that sounds like him. So, I mean, this is just basically like he's got this beautiful lady and, you know, he enjoys looking at ladies, I guess. I gave it a 4 or just a 4 on 5. It was okay. It was all right.
All right, so this is got some features. So the rest of the songs on this album have features, and this one has Valee. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Valee, and then Dolla, or whatever, because it's got a $sign in his name, which adds extra symbols if you were to read it, in my opinion. So they're there kind of singing a bit. So Valee does like this super high pitch thing, the yeah, you supermodel thing, damn that ass busting out the bottom, I'm gonna lose my mind in it, crazy that medulla oblongata, get to rubbing on my lamp, get the genie out the bottle. And honestly, I hated it the first time I heard it, but then it just kept growing on me because it's not like aimless wasted. Like, it's like you're listening, like it's a good rhythm, it's a good flow, and his voice, it grows on you a bit. Your medulla oblongata, if I'm not mistaken, is part of your brain responsible for some kind of involuntary muscle actions.
Like, your stem cell or whatever.
So, like, he's kind of like implying that these girls force, like Bonnie said, automatic reflex out of them. I kind of feel like I said, in the first half of this album, we're getting the dark side of Kanye. So this is like selfish Kanye when it comes to women. And it's kind of relevant to point that out as the album progresses, because this is Kanye as his most misogynistic that we're going to get, you know? But I think he's doing it to kind of point out that this is an honest side of himself.
And that he's also growing and he knows better, I think, now.
So, like, he does have lines like, if I pull up with a Kerry Washington that's going to be in enormous scandals, I could have a Naomi Campbell and still might want me in a Stormy Daniels. So what he's trying to imply here is he understands that he can't go pull up with another woman and go out there in public and get caught by some shit because he's married and blah, blah, blahs and paparazzis and all this other shit. But even though he's got this hot model wife, sometimes you just want to go fuck a dirty-ass porn star girl. And, you know, like, that's just the situation that he's expressing there. And he's kind of, like, he kind of flows through the song with that kind of tone of, like, just expressing, like, I guess, this honest desire. Like, time is extremely valuable. I prefer to waste it on girls that's basic. That's just some yay shit. Like, right now, let's do what we want. Let's have a threesome with you and the blunt. You know, like, just, oh, you're hot. Here's a blunt. Let's get high. Let's fuck. You, me, the joint. Let's go. You know, like, let's have a good time. And then it has that line about how he can focus on 2 things at once with the titties. I thought it was funny. But then he comes in with the third verse where I think he's trying to show how extreme and reckless he really is with let me hit it raw, like, fuck the outcome. None of us would be here without cum.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Hey, if it ain't all about the income, hey, let me see you go ahead and spend some. So if you're not willing to fuck him raw, then you better be willing to put up your money to show that you aren't after his. You know, it's kind of, but it's not like told from like this glorification point of view. It's just more like, this is me. I'm Kanye. I'm finally, you know, but like, I mean, I could see how it almost looks a little bit like it's just Kanye being a dick, but it feels a little bit more like Kanye just trying to make a point that really makes sense later on the album. But I still give it a 4 because it's a little something. It's a little much. It's a cool song, but I don't know. It's just not that good to me, in my opinion. Like, they're not bad, but like, just not as fun or well as interesting as the other ones. Anyway, all things considered, she wouldn't leave.
But down 'cause she couldn't breathe. Told her she could leave me now, but she wouldn't leave.
How do you think about this one?
It was all right. So we have, you know, he talks again in this song about his point of view on slavery and you know, what he had said about how, you know, it was 400 years of a choice, which I feel is like, you shouldn't have said that, Kanye.
Well, that's the point he's making.
Yeah, I know. And like it's sort of like a calmer song. He lives for now. Like he's obviously changed. Like he's kind of learning from his mistakes, which is good. And then him and Kim are for life. And he fucks up, but she like warned him. She was like, you know, kind of like how most women are, like, told you so. Like he should have listened to her. And like he's got a lot of ideas, but he also has a lot of problems. And it's sort of just like songs about marriage and like sticking it through like the hard times and like, you know, how she wouldn't leave, like she won't leave him. And it's sweet in like a Kanye way. Plus it's like, it's really well constructed, this song. But I can't say anything really about like the sound of it. It wasn't like my favorite. So I gave it a 4.25. It was nice, but yeah.
I don't know. I really thought it was sweet. Like, I mean, it starts off, I think, with they say build your own. I say houseway, which is referring to an interview where he was like, how am I supposed to build my own fan base and stuff? Like, how? It's so easy for you to say it, you know? Mm-hmm. I said slavery is a choice. They said how, gay? Like, now it's kind of reversed. Now he's in this position where he has what he wanted, I guess, but he fucked up. Just imagine if they caught me on a wild day. Now I'm on 50 blogs, getting 50 calls. My wife coming screaming, we about to lose it all. Had to calm her down because she couldn't breathe. Told her she could leave now, but she wouldn't leave. And so he's just saying, yeah, Kim was mad at me for all of that, and that's not good. But when I really came down to it and I had to like calm her down and look her in the eye and be like, look, if you're not down for this ride, you can go. And she chose to stay, which is really kind of sweet. And then he really does kind of go into a little bit more about his mind state and how he deals with the public and etc. Like, oh, don't bring that up. That's going to get me sentimental. You know, I'm sensitive. I got a gentle mental. Every time something happened, they want to send me to mental. We had an incident, but I covered credentials. You want me working on my messaging when I'm thinking like George Jetson but sounding like George Jefferson. They got me questioning my methods. If you tweaking on my text again, then I've got reception here, etc. It's kind of like pointed out. He's like showing again this level of self-awareness that he's not able to effectively express himself to the public in a way where like he's getting his point across in the way that he means to. Like he feels like in his mind he's saying things in a certain way and then they come off completely different. Like even if publicly I lack the empathy, I ain't gonna talk about it for another 4 centuries. I don't know. He's just trying his best, I think, to like get the point across that he has these ideas that he wants to say, but he doesn't really, I guess I said, know how to say them. He wanted, like, I like the part where he's like, this tweet that he got, and he got tweeted from his wife after this tweet. My wife just called me and wanted me to make this clear to everyone. I don't agree with everything Trump does. I don't agree with 100% anyone but myself. And I think it's cool to see that tweet in real life, considering the last part of this song, where he's like, for any guy that ever fucked up, ever embarrassed their girl, their wife, I've been that guy. She told you not to do that shit. Oh, fuck, have I ever been that guy? And she told you it's going to fuck the money up, but you ain't want to listen, did you? Keep that same energy. Keep the same energy. Now you testing her loyalty. This what they mean when they say for better or for worse, huh? For every down female that stuck what they do through the best of times, through the worst of times, this for you. So I guess you get the sense that not only is it self-awareness, but he's saying, holy shit, she was right the whole time, and I'm a fucking idiot for not listening to her. Kim's probably happier than she's ever been in that moment, you know? Like, wow, Kanye is listening for once.
Yeah.
It's kind of a situation. But really, it felt so mature. It felt like how Jay-Z felt mature on that 444 album. And it's a real turning point on this project. Like I said, the dark side is over, and Kanye has expressed his worst sides of him, his drug abuse, how he wants to kill
I think
people.
that they both, I think if you're like relating to like Jay-Z as well, I think that they've both kind of like entered into the marriage. They've kind of like gotten past the honeymoon phase, and like now they're like dealing with like the real shit of real marriage and like life.
Right.
You know, or whatever. And I think that they're both kind of like at that level where they're both kind of like learning from like their woman and like actually like, you know, taking in some of the messages.
But I guess what I'm saying is on this album though, like, so we had like kind of this, like, even the prior song. So like he's kind of expressing his negative feelings and wants to be dark towards people. Then it's his self-abuse of drugs. Then how he just adulterizes maybe and is mean towards women. And then all of a sudden, he fucks up real bad and his woman chooses to stay with him. And he has this moment of, like, awakening and stuff. And I feel like the whole album changes in tone now and goes in a slightly different direction. So I felt this was a really cool middle track there. And I gave this a 5. I thought it was really well done. There were no mistakes on it, you could say.
Yeah.
My dogs will stay down, we up again.
This one has Charlie Wilson and Kid Cudi on it. They kind of sing in Make No Mistake, I'll Still Love You. It's nice. It goes on for a while. Kanye raps a bit. I don't know. All I really took from this one is, I got dirt on my names. I got white on my beard. I had debt on my books. It's been a shaky-ass year. Let me make this clear so y'all can see I don't take advice from people less successful than me, huh?
Yeah.
I really dug that part because he's right. I mean, something I've come to see is it's really silly to take financial advice from people who make less than $1 million a year. People who made less than $1 million a year don't know how to make $1 million a year. They just don't know how because they've never done it. So in the same kind of way, Kanye is pointing out, thank you all public people who are less successful than me for your opinions. Y'all can't relate. Y'all don't understand. Y'all don't really get it. And I kind of like that. And I feel like the whole kind of tone of this song is, again, like Kanye, again, being a little more self-aware, a little more reflective. It's kind of softer, but it didn't really resonate with me so much, and I gave it a 4. I could have done without this one, to be honest.
It turns out he does make some mistakes. So, yeah, I mean, I basically said the same thing about, you know, not taking other people's advice if they're not making more money than he is. He discusses his ego. He knows he was kind of like a legend in the making, like, basically, and he was kind of always like this weird kid, arrogant, whatever. It's a short and sweet song. It's like 2 minutes, 3 seconds. There's not really much else to say about this besides that he's the greatest and that he doesn't make mistakes and he's only going to grow. Is basically what he said. So I also gave it a 4 on 5. So let's check out this Ghost Town.
Yep. So Kanye again features a whole bunch of the squad on this one. He's got John Legend, who, even though John Legend was disappointed in Text Message, still is on the album. Some say someday I want to lay down like God did on Sunday, and he kind of goes on like that, and he's like singing it out, and it really makes me, this whole song makes me feel like that band Fun. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the feel that I have. Like, their singles, all of them kind of felt like this and not, like, whatever, which is fine. John Legend ends with, like, I'm getting high, I'm smoking marijuana, and I can do what I want, and it gets, like, really fucking weird. I thought it was Kanye at first, but no, it was John Legend who got the really weird, like, kind of high voice. Like, he just toked up a bunch, and now he's, like, indulging it. But it was really cool. Like, there's this sense of I kind of wanted to just lay back and have, like, a lazy Sunday with no stress, etc., and I guess whatever. And then we have Kid Cudi coming in with, I've been trying to make you love me, but everything I try just takes you further from me. And if I understand correctly, he was depressed for a while and went through some shit in his efforts to get, like, I guess, attention and love and whatnot. Then Kanye sings a little bit here. And I really like where he's like, someday we gonna set it off. Someday we gonna set this off, baby. Don't you bet it all on a pack of fentanyl. You might think that they wrote you off. They gonna have to rope me off. Someday the drama will be gone and they'll pray, oh no. Sometimes I take all the shine, talk like I drank all the wine. Years ahead, but way behind. I'm on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. I kind of lost the point where I want to go in with that, but I kind of like the idea where he seems so hopeful. He's like, you know, like, one day things are going to pick up. It almost feels like he's remembering back when he started, when things were hard, when he had the wires in his teeth and stuff, and he had to like almost get in touch with that earlier thing. But he's also pointing out that you can't just get lost in the painkillers and the drugs and the escape and stuff, and there's got to be something a little bit more to it. But then it has, I think it's 070 or something like that. The girl that's there, and she just kind of sings out the whole outro, and it like repeats out, and it's really cool. Like, it's one of those repeated outro things where you really think you're gonna hate it because it just keeps going, but it actually just kind of works really well. And nothing hurts anymore. I feel kind of free. We're all still the kids we used to be. Yeah, I put my hand on a stove to see if I still bleed. Yeah, nothing hurts anymore. I feel kind of free, and it just kind of loops and stuff. And you kind of get the sense that like Kanye's almost reinvented himself, and he's just trying to re-experiment and re-understand the boundaries because he's gone through some shit. Like, he had to overcome a painkiller addiction, a few other things, checked into therapy, had that situation where he collapsed on tour, and like, it's not like Kanye's had the easiest year. So I guess that's what he's trying to convey there. But I thought this was a beautiful track, and I give it a 4.5 on 5.
So he quotes Shirley Ann Lee, who apparently, like, she recorded a whole bunch of songs in, like, the 60s, and her music only kind of came to light, and everyone, I guess, kind of discovered her, or, you know, her recordings were released, or I don't know what happened exactly, but, like, in the late 2000s. So I thought that was kind of interesting, that he obviously, like, discovered her, thought she was interesting enough to feature on his song. I also like her name, Shirley Ann Lee. It makes me think of Anna Green Gables and Shirley. And features a clip of her singing. And he tries to like make people like him, but nothing works. Basically, he kind of includes some mumble rap in this song at the beginning. He goes to the hospital for the overdose of fentanyl because they gave him like too much, I guess medication. They didn't realize how much he was already taking. And 070 Shake does the outro.
Yeah, that's what her name is.
Yeah, and she was really good. Plus, at the same time, the beat gets hyped up. So it's kind of like this great beat with this like new voice that's there, and I thought that was really cool. I'm always looking for female rappers to get into, so I'm excited to see what she does. I guess she's start of the new Kanye crew. So yeah, and then he puts his hand on the stove, or I think she's saying that she puts her hand on the stove to see if it still bleeds, and I think it's like a weird sort of like depression thing, like you try to just feel things still, right? So it was very interesting and very creative. I gave it a 4 on 5.
All right, there's one more on this project. It's Violent Crimes.
All right, let's check it out.
Even the scary nights, thank you for all of the glory.
All right, Bonnie, you should go first on this one. Otherwise, I might talk too much again.
Okay. So this is basically about his daughters. He's kind of like looking at like their struggle and like their reality and like what they've kind of gone through like in their life or been exposed to. And he's sort of saying that there's a lot of like a struggle and sadness that these young girls have to go through. And his view of women has shifted and changed, I think, which is good. It's obviously he is maturing. He is changing. He's looking at women as not just things to conquer. He's looking at women as beings that he wants to nurture. And I think that's he's obviously caring. He's changed. He's had daughters. He's whatever. And he just wants to protect his daughters. But I'm sure he knows he can't. And the next lyrics I chose were, because she knows that blank is savage, blank is monsters, blank is pimps, blank is players, till blanks have daughters. blanks is pimps, blanks is players, blank till blanks have daughters. So I think that that's exactly like what he's trying to say. Like he's saying like this is what I was, this is what I've become, and it's because I had daughters. This is what has exposed me and like made me a better person, and taken women a little bit more seriously and cared for them instead of just using them for the holes that they have. And then I think I liked how Nicki Minaj was on the outro, and she said in a recording, I'm saying it like I want a daughter like Nicki. Oh man, I promise I'm gonna turn her to a monster, but no menages. I don't know how you saying it, but let him hear this. And so she obviously wanted them to, the audience, us, to hear what she was saying, but he basically took the same. Basically everything that she said and put it in the verse before this last one. So he basically, was obviously inspired by her words and he wanted to use them. I just thought that was funny. And it is, again, like sort of saying like she's a kind of, I think a lot of people think of her as a less great artist or as a hoe or whatever, they think she is. But she's clearly powerful and strong. And Kanye, takes her seriously, and he uses her words in his song, and I think that that's like saying something, that if Kanye is like taking lessons from Nicki Minaj, then she is just as great, which has been a controversy that we've talked about on here. So it's a very positive song at the end. I really like that, and I think it's showing that he's not going to let his bipolar illness get him down, and he's going to get something positive from it. And I thought that that was a great message, and I think that that's all you can really do in life, right? So I gave it a 4 on 5.
Yeah, so I think it's, again, like the kind of pinnacle. So if you look at something like All Mine, where he can only focus because on your two titties, and it's like, hey, I can multitask. And you look at the evolution where he's kind of like showing how now that he has daughters, he's really rethinking about, just to like follow up with what you were quoting, right? He's like, is now till have daughters, now they precautious. Father, forgive me, I'm scared of the karma. So he's not considering all of the way he's treated women in the past, and how men might go up and start to treat his daughter
the same way.
And then, because now I see women as something to nurture, not something to conquer. And then he goes, I hope she like Nicki. I'll make her a monster, not having menages. I'm just being silly. So that's where Nicki Minaj's lines from the end part gets put into the song there. It's right at the beginning. It's really powerful. My favorite part of this is when he's like, no, daddy, don't play. Not when it comes to the daughters. Don't do no yoga. Don't do Pilates. No, you are not doing things. You are not following Kanye's workout plan. Just play piano and stick to karate. And I hope that you end up with a body that's more like mine and not like your mommy's. I'm just being salty, but is nuts. And I know what they want. I pray that you don't get it all at once. Curves under your dress. I know it's pervs all on the net, all in the comments. You want to vomit. That's your baby. You love her to death. Now she cut in class and hanging with friends and stuff. And it's like she's getting older, and he recognizes
he's already like visualizing this whole future thoughts.
And he's just like hoping that like puberty doesn't kick in, and that if she ends up kind of being fat and kind of more like him than being busty and curvaceous like
I don't think Kanye's fat.
He's a little chunky. So he's a little less in shape than he used to be.
I don't know.
He's not, I guess it's
he's got a dad bod, maybe.
Yeah, he's got a dad bod. I would say that. He's not like me, but he's he's definitely more like what Kanye would prefer that she goes down than the dad bod.
Like a more
way.
Natural.
Yeah.
I think that's what he needs.
As opposed to looking like a supermodel, that, etc. Mm-hmm. Either way, I thought this was sweet. If you really think about it, it's like the ultimate transformation of everything to have this song come from Kanye West. And I think it's really powerful for him to make this kind of song. Like, I can think of so many examples where Kanye West makes dorky-ass sex rhymes where he's whatever, and now he's like, oh shit, I have a little girl. I used to do that to, oh my God. And he's just having like the most cliche moment ever in history, but it's really sweet. I think this song's a 5. I really like it. And 070 Shake or whatever, she comes in and does that bridge where it's like almost looking at it from the perspective of a mother wishing that their child would never grow up and just kind of stay young forever. And it's really kind of sweet, all things considered. Anyway, I guess that's it for this little album, the second of our 2 little albums tonight, which turned into a longer review than I thought it would be. But what can you say? It's good music, baby. I give this album a 4.5 on 5. I think it has to be said that Kanye West production is stellar. And if you consider, even on songs that are heavily feature-based, that he does all the music side of it too, that's like Kanye West contributing to at least 50% of the song, if not more. The mixing, the mastering. Like, he's so involved in the project. It almost made me picture this is kind of what people think DJ Khaled does, or what he used to do back in the day. And so I thought it was just a really interesting experience. I think it's a good defense for Kanye. I can still see how most people are going to miss the point. I think Kanye is explaining how he thinks in a way where if you really listen to what Kanye says and don't try to interpret it, don't take his words so literally, maybe even consider that he does have the grandiose nature of a Donald Trump type. And just understand that if you can filter through the top layer of Kanye's nonsense, there's some pretty interesting golden nuggets of truth and knowledge underneath that. And the production's stellar, like I said. So, all things considered, for the 14 tracks, I don't think Kanye had a miss on the beats.
No.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I basically said the same thing. I gave it a 4.14. Overall, I mean, it's still like a Kanye album, so it's still going to be obviously well constructed and produced. It's he's just great at that. He doesn't put out shit, obviously. He puts out weird shit sometimes, but it's always interesting and it is always very well done. I will absolutely give him that. He is a true artist and a bit of a genius in a weird semi-asshole kind of way. So yeah, I think that's about it. I enjoyed this one.
All right, cool. So thank you all for watching this. We appreciate you sticking with us. Those of you who did, if you just watched the end, you're still awesome. Feel free to let us know in the comments how you felt about either of these projects, how you felt about our review. If you like what we do, hit the subscribe button, and please like the video if you dug it. Special thanks to Mozart and Liddell William, our patrons. And if you really want to see us grow and have a better quality room and everything, that's a great way to support us and show some love. On that note, we'll do the Kid Cudi Nas team up in 2 weeks, and then we'll look at something cool for you next week. Thanks for being here. Have yourself a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Mona, all you wanted